Hello and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach's ARPA nonprofit organization public input meeting. My name is Yuri Konikov and I will assist with the GoToWebinar portion of today's meeting. Before we start, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items so those virtual audience members know how to participate. Your microphones have been muted to reduce background noise. There will be specific times during this meeting when audience members can participate. The first way is by typing your question into the questions section at the bottom of the GoToWebinar interface. Those items will be read into the record by a meeting organizer at the appropriate time. The second way is by clicking on the raise hand icon indicating you wish to speak. A meeting organizer will announce the next speaker at the appropriate time and unmute their audio, at which time you should state your name and address for the record. Please minimize any sources of background noise and speak clearly into your microphone during your allotted time. I will now turn control over to David Scott and Carice Lejeune, who will be presiding over today's meeting.
Thank you, Yuri, and we appreciate this evening having you all out. This is the third public meeting for our ARPA. The first two were open to the general public. This one is specifically tailored to our nonprofits. As Yuri mentioned, my name is David Scott. I'm with the City of Boynton Beach. I'm the Director of Economic Development and Strategy. So I will be the host this evening, and I will partnered with Carice Lejeune, who's our expert around ARPA, and will be presenting the PowerPoint this evening. And what we want to do is make sure we get your input this evening. We really want to hear from you as the nonprofit community. What do you feel is important? What are those things that you think we are missing? And we want to also impart information on how you can engage with our process around ARPA. Ask any questions that you may have, no matter how technical. I think Carice has all the answers. Is that correct, Carice?
I'll try my best.
Carice is being very humble because she is very knowledgeable around ARPA, and those questions that we can't answer, we certainly will get back to you with the answer. All of the information tonight that you share with us is being captured, and as we gather more and more information from our website, from our surveys that we asked you to fill out, we have surveys in the back as well. We're going to capture all of that information. On the 7th of December, we'll present all of your contacts, all of your information to the all your information and input to the City Commission for their consideration. The City Commission is going to take that information in the workshop on the 7th of December. Again, that's going to be from 3:30 to 5. We really want to share that with the commission, and they will be able to help us set priorities around what you've asked us to present. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Carice. Thank you, Carice.
Thank you, David. I appreciate the introduction. And just to reiterate, it is a team effort here at the City of Boynton Beach with the American Rescue Plan Act, local and state recovery funds. So if we could first go to the first slide, please, Yuri. Yuri is the man behind the curtain. So when the American Rescue Plan Act was signed into law back in March 11th of 2021, the U.S. Department of Treasury established the Corona State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. The U.S. Treasury had 4 funding objectives for creating this opportunity, and the 4 funding objectives were to support urgent COVID-19 response efforts, to replace lost revenue, the immediate economic stabilization of our households and businesses, and to address the public health and economic challenges. Would anybody be offended if I remove my mask to speak? I think I'm far enough away from everybody. I keep eating cotton. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So just for a brief overview, this legislative bill created $350 billion for states, municipalities, counties, tribes, and territories. The city of Boynton Beach, which is an entitlement community through HUD, was allocated $13,647,904 in two different parts, which they're referring to as tranches. The city received its first deposit of roughly 6.8 million back on May 19th, and they will receive the second deposit in May of 2022. So one of the things that the Secretary of the U.S. Treasury Department did was that he established the interim final rule, the IFR. And these are a set of rules and regulations for implementing the fiscal recovery funds. Now, these funds can be used for specific but rather broad categories, being number one, supporting the public health expenditures in response to COVID-19, to address the negative economic impacts that are caused by the public health emergency, providing aid to those communities and populations hardest hit by the crisis, replacing lost public sector revenue, providing premium pay for essential workers, and investing in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. Now, the city will distribute the recovery funds among the 5 categories based on identified needs and negative impacts of the COVID-19 health emergency. Next slide, please. So here is the spending framework for the city of Boynton Beach. We refer to these as the 5 buckets, as in buckets of money. Now, at this point in time, the city has not determined how much money will be allocated for each of those 5 buckets. But in the next slide, we're going to talk about the different eligible uses for these different categories. Next slide. So the first one is revenue loss, which is providing vital public services. And we wonder, why is that so important to replenish the revenue loss from the city? Well, because fire, police, EMS, water, sewer, sanitation, recreation programs, and a lot of other vital services are provided by the city. But like everyone else, the city lost revenues during the COVID-19 public health emergency. So in order to continue the services at the pre-COVID-19 level of service, the city needs to at least replenish the funds that were lost so that the citizens of Boynton Beach will not be negatively impacted by not getting the services that the city has continually provided pre-COVID. Next slide, please. So for the public health category, this is to support the public health response and to meet that wide range of emergent public health needs. Mitigation and containment of COVID-19, those were those testing and vaccination sites that you saw the city pop up throughout the emergency. Behavioral health care is for new or enhanced programs for mental health, substance abuse. I think we all went a little bit stir crazy when we were confined in our homes. And for some families, it created a huge difficulty that now having a mental health professional that they could turn to will help them get back to the new normal that we're all experiencing. And then the public health and safety staff, the response created a huge commitment for safety staff and public health staff. And this is a way to recover those costs for the police and the fire and the EMS that were responding during the COVID-19 health emergency. Next slide. So let's talk about the cumulative economic impact, which hit all sectors of the community and all populations. The ARPA local funds are meant to support families and small businesses and those that have been hardest hit by the economic impacts. Workers and families, through these funding, we can provide assistance for rent, for food. We can help create job training for unemployed workers. The city has already hosted a career fair, which I understand was incredibly successful. A lot of people were put in contact with major employers, and at last count, I think there were like 8 people that were immediately employed. Small businesses, the city can provide loans and grants to mitigate the financial hardships. They can provide technical assistance to small businesses. And for the hardest hit industries, which are identified as tourism, travel, and hospitality, the city can help to mitigate and prevent the spread of COVID-19 so that people can open their doors again for restaurants and hotels and travel agencies. This also helps to provide equity-focused services, and these would be services that reach our disproportionately impacted communities, specifically those in qualified census tracts, which are low-income areas defined by HUD. Other households or populations or geographic areas identified by the state or by local government as disproportionately impacted can also receive aid, while the city tries to address health disparities, educational disparities, and promote healthy childhood environments and affordable housing needs. Next slide. Water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So this was created so that local governments and counties and states could invest in infrastructure to deliver clean water and reliable broadband internet. The activities under water and sewer infrastructure need to be eligible under the Federal Water Pollution Control Act or the Safe Drinking Water Act. For example, the city would be able to use these funds to construct, improve, and repair wastewater treatment plants, improve drinking water infrastructure, and control non-point sources of pollution, as well as improving resilience in infrastructure for severe weather events and manage and treat stormwater. It can also be used for the city's cybersecurity needs, which is something that's become very, very prevalent in our world today. Broadband infrastructure. This has been designed to provide service to the unserved or underserved households and businesses. The federal government asked that we prioritize projects that achieve those last mile connections and to integrate affordability options for the users that are considered being underserved or unserved. Next slide. Premium pay. So premium pay offers an enhanced compensation for essential city workers because of the health and financial risks that they faced during the COVID-19 public health emergency. Now, the IFR, the interim final rule, gives definition, a specific definition for what essential workers are. And they are those in critical infrastructure sectors who regularly perform in-person work, interact with others at work, or physically handle items that have been handled by others. Premium pay can also be provided retroactively for essential city work performed during the pandemic. It recognizes that many essential workers have not yet received additional compensation for their service during the pandemic. Next slide. Now, I would like to ask Finance Director Mara Fredrickson to come up and talk to you about the ARP funding.
Good evening. My name is Mara Fredrickson. I'm the Director of Finance for the City of Boynton. I'm going to go over this slide a little bit. So our initial payment, as Carice already mentioned, we received $6.8 million in May. We're anticipating another $6.8 million in May of next year. To date, we've spent $29,000 on our housing study, $28,000 on a 2-week tutoring program that the commission approved. This was for our 4th graders for some of the elementaries within the City of Boynton. $67,000 for the wellness program for our police and fire. This was mental health wellness. There's a $500,000 that we partnered with our CRA to purchase some lots. If you'll look later on down in the slide, the $500,000 is coming back to us because they were unable to purchase any of the lots that they anticipated purchasing. Now, the items that you see in red on this slide are items that have either been talked about at commission or approved by the commission, but they're not solid numbers yet. They're estimated. So right now we've estimated $60,000 for our vaccine incentive. That was for the purchase of gift cards. They were $100 gift cards to the public for anybody that came out those 2 days to get vaccinated. We did budget $1.95 million in this year's budget for our revenue losses, which were for March through September of last year, through September of 2020. And then we've partnered with Pathways to Prosperity. That's $75,000. That's to pay for a person for rental assistance for money from the county. And then our vaccine incentives, you'll see fire is $67,500, police is $75,000, and the general employee is $257,000. And that's an incentive if the employees get vaccinated by November 15th. Those are estimated numbers because we're not sure who will get vaccinated. So that's about $400,000 in total if every employee does get vaccinated. The next line is $3 million for revenue losses that are anticipated from October of 2020 through September of 2021. Now, we just closed out September of 2021, so we haven't really calculated that yet. That's really just an estimate. The next line is $2 million for an affordable housing project with Wells Landing. That one hasn't come before our commission at all yet. We do anticipate that coming before them, but I'm not sure what that number really is. That's just an estimate or what they're looking for the project at this point. Premium pay for all the employees, the commission already approved $1,000 now and $1,000 next year for every employee. Wi-Fi in the parks, we have $600,000. It's $200,000 budgeted over the next 3 years. And then we're anticipating about $150,000 in project manager costs. But again, that's just an estimate as well. So right now, out of both tranches, that leaves us about $3.6 million left.
Thank you, Mara. Yuri, could you go to the next slide, please? So let's talk specifically about nonprofit organizations now. So according to the Treasury's IFR, the interim final rule, the eligible uses include assistance to households, small businesses, but that includes nonprofit organizations as well. So it includes, but is not limited to, loans or grants that will mitigate the financial hardship, such as the declines in your revenues or impacts of periods of business closure. For example, it can support your payroll and benefit costs, costs to retain your employees, your mortgage, rent, or utility costs, and other operating costs. Loans, grants, or in-kind assistance to implement COVID-19 prevention or mitigation tactics, such as physical plant changes, like if you had to put up those partitions in your building so that you could deal with the public but still be separated. Things that will enable social distancing, enhanced cleaning efforts, and COVID-19 vaccination testing or contact tracing programs. It can also be used for technical assistance, counseling, and other services to assist with business planning needs. Next slide, please. So ARPA recipients may also fund nonprofits to provide evidence-based interventions that respond to COVID-19 public health emergency and the negative impacts to the pandemic. So when we talk about evidence-based programs, the city right now has a citizen survey out on the street. It's been out for, what, about a month or so now? They also have FIU, Florida International University, is also doing another type of survey so that the city can truly identify the negative impacts and the needs of the city and the citizens and the businesses. From that, programs and projects will be developed, and then it'll be brought to the City Commission at their workshop on December 7th for prioritization. From those programs, the city is not in the nonprofit business, so there are services that can be provided by our local nonprofits. So the city doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. What they will do is partner with a nonprofit who can provide those evidence-based interventions on behalf of the city. And then the city would be able to provide the funding that is necessary to either enhance or expand those services. I want to talk for a minute what it means to be evidence-based. So strong evidence means that the evidence base, it can be supported by causal conclusions for a specific program that's proposed by the applicant with the highest level of confidence. And moderate evidence means that there is a reasonably developed evidence base that can support the causal conclusions. The evidence base consists of one or more quasi-experimental studies with positive findings on one or more intended outcomes, or two or more non-experimental studies with positive findings on one or more intended outcomes. So that's a lot of information, and I had to read that because there's no way that I was going to memorize it. What it means is, like, let's take, for example, we need a mental health program, and we want to partner with a nonprofit. Well, just a group of folks who have a 501c3 comes to the city and say, oh, well, we'll provide a mental health program for you. Well, what the city is going to want to know is, do you have licensed therapists? Are your programs proven programs that have been used in other areas that are accepted by the mental health medical community? So that's something that is a strong evidence-based program. So there'll be an opportunity in the future, and I'll let David talk more about that, where nonprofits will be able to put in application to partner with the city. But in the meantime, the city commission will be able to tell us what the priorities are and what grants or loans would be available to offset the negative economic impact that you experienced for payroll and rent and those type of things. Next slide, please. So we're up to the public input portion of it, and the implementation of the fiscal recovery funds must reflect public input. the federal treasury was very specific. You have to have public input, you have to be transparent, and you have to be accountable with these monies, which is why the city is taking so much effort to assess whether programs or services respond to the COVID-19 health emergency. So step one is identifying the need or negative impact, and that's what we're doing right now. That's what we've been doing for the last month and a half with our citizen survey and our FIU study. The next would be to identify how the program, service, or other intervention addresses that identified need or impact. And then finally, focus on opportunities to partner with other agencies and nonprofits to create those programs, services that will address those identified needs. Next slide, please. So here is an example of the community survey, and there are many ways that you can access these. We encourage everyone to fill out a community survey. Again, we can identify needs and negative impacts, but we feel that the citizens and the businesses and the nonprofits in the city, who basically you are the boots on the ground, by completing this survey, you give us greater insight into what those negative impacts are and what needs are in the community. Next slide. So these are just some ways that you can access the survey. They can be accessed through the city's website, Facebook, and Instagram. You can even take your smartphone, and there's one of those QR codes on the back table. You can take your smartphone and scan that QR code, and that will take you directly to the survey that you could do on the convenience of your smartphone. For those of you who prefer hard copy to digital, we have printed surveys, and you can also pick them up at the Boynton Beach City Library. Library staff are available to assist you if you need any help in completing the survey. Next slide. So this is actually the final public input and outreach meeting. We have had 2 public meetings. We have our nonprofit service provider meeting, and then all of the information that we collect will be combined and compiled so that the City Commission can make educated decisions as to what the priorities for the ARPA funding is. And again, there is additional outreach available through public service announcements in English, Haitian, and Spanish radio, newsletters, and social medias. So at this time, I would like to hand our meeting back off to David.
Thank you, Carice. At this time, I'd like to open it up to the audience to provide any comments. Please come forward and use the microphone for those that are not only in this room, but we have a virtual audience as well. Once we hear from the people here in this room, we'll open it up to those that are online for any additional questions or comments that they may have. So at this time, I certainly do invite anyone to come forward and provide any suggestions. Again, any of your information, suggestions, ideas that you may have are being recorded, captured, and added to our database with the intent of compiling all of that information and providing it to the City Commission at their workshop on the 7th of December. So at this time, does anyone have any ideas, thoughts that we should include in our database and of information? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Oh, David?
Yes.
I forgot something. The man in the box over here, that's John Durgan. He's a member of our team. He has the timer, and just in the interest of everyone having an opportunity to speak here and our viewers virtually, there will be a 3-minute time limit on your ability to comment. So please have your thoughts together when you come to the podium. Thank you.
There's 80,000 people in Boynton Beach, and I'm the only one that talks every week. Ernest McNolly, 710 Northeast 7th Street, Boynton Beach, Florida. I'd like to say that I feel it's not good that so much of the public, for whatever reason, doesn't come to these meetings. They're not really set up for the public. And with 18,000 families living in poverty in Boynton Beach, I think it's a disgrace that these meetings talk about businesses and fancy restaurants and developers losing money and landlords losing money. And yet there's kids in school don't have food. Their apartments are run down, and you don't want to give any money to fix up these houses because the developers are going to use COVID to allow these houses to get run down so that they could declare them condemned, get the people out, and then change it from $1,000 a month affordable housing into $3,000 a month. So I come to all the meetings here, and it's one meeting after the next. You're giving developers pieces of land for nothing. You're getting involved with special interests from other towns that really have nothing to do with the good, needy people in this city. And when you listen to the way you're dispersing the money, I mean, please, you have city workers. That's part of being a civil servant. I've done it for 50 years. To say that I should get $1,000 or $2,000, or I should get $500 to get a vaccination, I shouldn't get anything like that. There's children here that don't have food. They don't have a safe place to live. They have rats in their house. And we're worried about giving the police $2,000, $3,000. Oh, what's wrong with this picture? It's a horrible picture. And it's a disgrace that, why should I be being a voice for all these things that I see around the town? The housing here is a disgrace. And what do you keep doing with this council? You keep making high income, high rises, getting rid of people with little children that need to go to school, pricing them out of the market. And then when you do offer a little bit of food or something, you make people have to show up in public, in front of the world and say, I'm hungry. You shouldn't do it like that. Why don't you do it like you give the police and firemen the quiet little cards? Do it to the family owners. Don't make them feel like they got to come and show up someplace to get some food. It's a disgrace. I think the whole city is a disgrace. And you got $6 million. It's already going to be a year. And how come you don't disperse it? What are you waiting for? This is an emergency going on here. Instead, you're spending all the money paying firemen and police to get a vaccine. If they don't want it, too bad. Stop paying them. I think my time's up.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to respond a little bit. I mean, you're good. I appreciate your comments, because we captured some of that information already regarding helping the low income and those that have been really impacted by COVID. So some of those kids programs that you mentioned are some of those ideas that have been captured in our database as well. And we appreciate the input. And you will hear that as I mentioned, all those ideas are coming forward and will be presented to the commission on December 7th. So you're absolutely right. You haven't heard them yet, but you will on December 7th. So Annette.
Hi, Annette Gray, GBDC Entrepreneurship Institute, soon to be Center for Entrepreneurship, Workforce Development, and STEAM. So one of the largest impacted population were students, children, who were marginalized to begin with. They were not stellar athletes, and they were not necessarily stellar in grades either. It's that middle group of kids that can potentially slip one side or the other. When you combine the fact that this group has the largest growth in homelessness, so 30% growth in homelessness in families with children who are tweens and teens, so 13 through 15. When you combine the lack of home stability, a tactile learning style, which meant learning at home didn't work for them, you have a population that has snowballed towards not only homelessness, but have lost their potential track for college and gainful employment. So we plan to focus on that group to help with the homelessness component, to help with the tactile and experiential learning component, the workforce partnership, because like I said, they're not going to have high SAT scores and college potential scholarships. So effective job placement is going to be very important for this group. Also, the largest growing population in domestic violence was men, young men, first time arrested between the age of 16 and 23. So I work closely with the Boynton Beach Police Department and the Sheriff Department to also come up with a program that would address and start mitigating these issues. So let's try to remember that target population. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. Dora.
Katura Joes of Boynton Beach Faith-Based Community Development Corporation. I am a housing advocate. So usually when I come up to talk, I'm talking housing. I noticed on your budget or funding or whatever you call it, first of all, let me ask another question before I ask that question. How much money are we talking about? What is the allocation that you anticipate for the nonprofits to access? Does anybody have that number?
That number is that could possibly be that $3 million number that Mara presented, but that will be determined by the commission on the 7th of December.
Okay, so out of the 13 point something million, 13.6 million is what I think it is, 10.6 have been allocated. And there's 3 point something million left that you hope to distribute amongst
Correct.
the nonprofit. Okay. So I noticed that there is a line item there for $2 million for Wells Landing. And while I am an affordable housing advocate, a housing advocate, if I'm not mistaken, I've been, I've participated, excuse me, my voice is, I've participated in a lot of these meetings for years. I recall that Wells Landing was given the land by the CRA and or the city. And now we have $2 million allocated for them. I'm not sure why, but they said maybe or maybe not. I heard you when you said that. I would like to see some of that money set aside. There are other affordable housing or housing needs in this community. We have a serious senior housing crisis in this community. There is an affordable housing crisis in this community. There is supportive housing needs in this community. And we cannot allocate in good faith $2 million. Thank you very much. Thank you. We cannot allocate $2 million to a project that has already obtained or received subsidy from the city, and we're living all those other housing needs outside of the box. So this $2 million, while I'm not saying that Wells Landing is not entitled to get some relief, I was at the last meeting when they came up and made their presentations asking for more money. I was here. There are other housing needs. Seniors, we are losing seniors right now, who some of them who could possibly have gotten a little part-time job somewhere, but because of COVID, they can't work anymore. They're at home, they're homebound. Their retirement or their Social Security is not enough, We have one senior community in this, in Boynton, which is Boynton Bay. So let's think about other housing needs besides just giving one developer $2 million.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sheila Schwartz. I'm from Upland Medical Group, and we are a group of doctors who provide home care services. And we've been doing vaccines for schools, we've been doing homebound seniors, and we've been doing regular ongoing counseling and regular ongoing medical treatment, whether it be diabetes or lupus or whatever keeps you at home. We're looking to partner with nonprofits so that we can have our doctors go to people's homes and deliver services, whether it's a food pantry, whether it's a senior administration, senior development. Our doctors go into homes. They provide medical assistance for anybody who needs it, whether it's a young child needing a vaccination or whether it's a senior needing counseling and more medical care. We'd like to partner with the city of Boynton Beach. We've been on the task force with FIU in the past few months, and we're looking to also partner with the nonprofits so that we can send our doctors into homebound neighborhoods.
Thank you.
My name is Kelly Drum. I'm a board supervisor for the High Ridge Quantum Community Development District, as well as a member of the Boynton Beach Public Arts Advisory Board. Additionally, I manage an art gallery in Boca Raton, and I have been an artist myself since practically birth. I've also founded the Arts Advocacy. Over the last few months, I have been working diligently towards launching a charitable cause, the Arts Advocacy, whose mission is to empower the creativity of communities through art supplies. The Arts Advocacy has been awarded a fiscal sponsorship by Side Project Inc., who is a 501c3 nonprofit who has been in operation since 2012. Studies suggest that art therapy can be very valuable in treating issues such as depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and even some phobias. With the current state of our nation, there is no doubt that our community is riddled with such issues as well. Art is a great way to express your emotions without words, process complex feelings, and find relief. Because of this, the Arts Advocacy is committed to ensure schools, rehabilitation centers, and other organizations who assist our at-risk populations have the necessary supplies to facilitate our activities. By providing art supplies, we are able to ease the financial burden in underfunded organizations while paving a way for healing through creativity in our communities. More than just providing art supplies, we want to advocate and bring awareness to the vast research-proven benefits of all arts: visual, musical, theatrical, and literary. Our ultimate goal is to promote the betterment of whole communities by helping them embrace the arts as a critical component of each person's success. Since we are just starting out, the data to prove the benefits of our art supplies grants is limited. However, there's a multitude of scientific research from organizations who would qualify as our beneficiaries, confirming the vast advantages of access to art supplies. At this time, the Arts Advocacy is requesting financial assistance from the American Rescue Plan Act to jumpstart the creative healing process in our communities for the emotional and mental trauma caused by COVID-19. There are countless educators and therapists who need help providing an opportunity for art experiences, which we believe all deserve to receive regardless of funding or socioeconomic status. Your support would allow us to fulfill even more applications for these facilitators and foster a greater sense of community for our arts and culture scene, which has just begun to come alive again. I thank you for your time and welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else this evening? Sheila.
I remove my mask. Sheila Joe Gaines, 2500 Quantum Lakes. Good evening. I am Sheila Jo Gaines. I'm a representative for Trinity Counseling Centers, a strong evidence-based program. The mission of Trinity Counseling Centers is to provide timely and effective mental/behavioral health that allows individuals, that allows individuals to improve and maintain their mental well-being and therefore meet their personal, emotional, and mental health goals. Our experience and partnerships enable us to offer effective, individualized outpatient mental health care. We treat a number of mental health disorders and provide a neutral ground to individuals, families, and couples. Ultimately, we provide mental health care to underserved communities. TCC started its journey in October 2020. We set out to empower underserved communities. In the last year, TCC has created a mentorship program for children ages 12 to 19. We meet weekly. TCC has provided mobile crisis stabilization services in Palm Beach County with the help of clergy, the police, and a licensed mental health counselor. TCC is a liaison that works with community partners to connect underserved communities with mental health services that is immensely needed in Boynton Beach. TCC is currently hosting, in partnership with the Opioid Response Network, to provide a 4-part training series on the sequential intercept model. We are also planning an Narcan distribution for the city of Boynton Beach for the month of November 2021. Mental health matters. COVID affected us all. I think a lot of us are in this building right now doing the work, but asking for help and partnerships from the city. I think that we've shown that we are eager to work, and we would appreciate partnership with the city. Thank you guys for everything you do.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else here in the chamber? John, do you have any?
Yes, we have one question and one hand raised online. I'll read the question first. It's from Julian Blankenship. And the question is, who can we contact to provide additional comments and ask questions after this meeting? I think I can answer that for you. You can contact me at the city directly. My number is 561-742-6014. And you can also email the city. We have a dedicated ARPA email address for the city where we're collecting all this information as well. And that's arpa@bbfl.us. I'll say it again briefly. It's arpa@bbfl.us. And then I see Ray Wiley's hand is raised, and I'm going to go ahead and unmute him. And you're self-muted. Ray, I believe you're on. Mr. Wiley, you are unmuted. I'll move on. I don't see any other hands raised or questions in the comment box.
Thank you very much. I'd like to just remind everyone, Mara, did you have something?
So Ms. Joseph, I know you mentioned it, that I did say that it hasn't been brought before our board yet. Part of the reason we haven't brought it before the board yet is because we are looking at other funding options besides ARPA. We're hoping not to spend the 2 million out of ARPA because it is a huge chunk out of ARPA money. So I just wanted to address that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mara. All right. Thank you very much. I believe we've heard from just about everyone here. I want to make sure that there's no last comments in the chamber this evening. Annette?
actually just have a question. So should we then wait till the December meeting to submit a proposal?
I was going to get to that. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So if you have any additional comments, ideas, proposals, please email us through the email that John just gave you. You could also use the survey that's online. If you go on the website, it's under Boynton Beach website. There's an ARPA tab that you can click on that has all the information. It has the detail that Carice went through. It has the links to the survey. It has the link to the email that John just mentioned. It also has his number there. So there's so many ways you can contact us to get us any ideas. And we are accepting ideas all the way up through the workshop with the commission. And we'll probably go continue to leave that portal open so you can continue to submit additional ideas to us. As we mentioned, that if you have a proposal and that have any proposals that you'd like to get to us, please get them to us now. You can email them to us directly. We're capturing all of that information. We want to be able to present a full presentation to the commission. Any of your ideas specifically, we may end up recommending to the commission that we have buckets of available money. So if it's around affordable housing, we may develop a grant with a dollar amount and say we are accepting grants for affordable housing at a certain dollar amount. That may be how we present to the commission, but that's still open depending on the input that you give us this evening and the previous two public input meetings, in addition to the other surveys and opportunities for us to hear from you. We're going to format that information into a presentable presentation to the commission for them to consider at their workshop. So please continue to send us additional information that we will continue to gather. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is there any place that is there any place where we can go online to see the amount of surveys that you have? Because it's well known that Boynton Beach is very under served in the census, which means there's probably more than declared amount of people here. So if this is about the distribution of the money and you keep saying about you want the public involved, if not coming in here, which most people don't want to do, about the surveys that you keep talking about, where are they? Where are they being compiled? Are they anonymous? And are you keeping account of how many you have before the December 7th meeting? That's my question. That was, I think, more than one question, but sorry.
Absolutely. Yuri, could you pull up the slide regarding the survey in addition and to answer your question? There is a count. We're using survey, all the surveys are being submitted through SurveyMonkey. So we have that detail that the commission has asked us to present that on our website, and we're working with SurveyMonkey now to present that. No, you can actually, there's hard copies here, there's hard copies at the library as well, and they're staff. No, we didn't email them out. There are hard copies here. We've had hard copies at every meeting. We also have, again, hard copies at the library, and we have staff at the library that can help people fill out those surveys. Yes, they are. But we are certainly looking for ideas. So if you choose to submit anonymously, we're really more interested in the ideas that you have, where we should be spending the money. Less about who you are and where you're from. So we will have to provide you with the total count to date through our SurveyMonkey, but we do have that information. And the commission has asked us to figure out how to display that on our website. Yes, sir.
David, we have a couple of hands raised and additional questions here online. I know Miss Sherry Johnson had her hands raised, and I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now. So you are self-muted, Miss Johnson, if you would like to speak.
Good evening. I was listening to the presentation on the arts and mental health. We've talked as the Boynton Beach Mental Health Committee about possibly working with the city on creating some kind of a memorial event, maybe next October when it's safe, that people can come out, celebrate, hug each other. But there were so many lives that were lost or relatives that were lost. And during the COVID, no one really was able to attend memorial services or celebrations of life. So there's been a tremendous amount of quiet grieving. And I think the Arts Commission could play a wonderful role in helping the community create some kind of a memorial event that could be part of an arts project, as well as all of the mental health providers out in full force, and do it in conjunction with pastors and music and celebration at the amphitheater. So I'd like to see some funds, doesn't have to be a lot, set aside to bring the community together and celebrate those lives that were lost and we were not able to be together to support each other through that crisis.
Thank you, Sherry.
Yep, and I got another hand raised. I'm gonna try Ray Wiley again. No, he's still on, so I have you unmuted. You are self-muted, Mr. Wiley.
Good afternoon. Okay, got it. Thank you, John, for coming back to me. I just wanted to take a minute to lift up the fact that the clergy is coming together with other social service providers to kind of lift up something that we believe has been impacting District 2 and the surrounding areas of District 2 for a long time. So coming together to champion those social service providers who are all doing such great work. How could we work together? How could we champion some of those things? Ms. Katura Joseph mentioned the housing crisis. Sheila mentioned Trinity Counseling Center. Sherry mentioned Boynton Beach Mental Health. As pastors, praying with people, we are finding that the issues around mental health and substance abuse is so great that we have to lift up that work and champion funding that's going into those areas to really help people. So I just wanted to get on our record and support Sherry Johnson with the Boynton Beach Mental Health Committee and Trinity Counseling Center, and also all the other persons who are really advocating to help people who were most impacted by COVID-19. It's one thing to hear about it, but it's another thing to pray for folk and connect folk with our certain things to a place where working with organizations like Palm Beach County Behavioral Health Coalition to make sure that we're knowledgeable and we're partnering to do the right thing for the community. Partnering with organizations like Harm Reduction Center that are qualified in some of these services because they are experts at providing it. And also partnering with our Premier Medical Center, which is on Boynton Beach Boulevard, to create access for primary care physicians and primary care visits. Removing those barriers from the pulpit is something, well, that stigma rather from the pulpit is something that the pastors in Boynton Beach have committed to doing and standing by the nonprofits as they advocate for special funds to help the people in the community. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to really share that, and look forward to any questions or follow up or anything that will help us better serve the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. Well said. We have some very good nonprofit partners in the city, and that is the reason why we're here. We really want to engage you. You know your community best. The city wants to get out of the way and allow you to do what you do best for your community. So I thank you for that comment, Ray, and I appreciate everyone here tonight. Commissioner, I didn't know if you wanted to say anything. So
David, we still have one more comment.
one more comment.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
You're good. I have Anita Kukovis on, and I'm going to unmute her. You were self-muted.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I wanted to echo what Reverend Whiteley was saying. I think it's very important that, because it kind of sounds to me like we're talking about different buckets of funding, housing and behavioral health and the grief that all folks are going through. I think it's important to understand that all of these things come together. The depression, the grief that folks are going through because of this worldwide pandemic are often going to be reflected in people abusing drugs and alcohol, and having behavioral health needs that come to the surface that might not have been there previously, or at least obvious to those. The greatest predictor of people being able to keep their lives together and have their sobriety stay in place is being able to have housing. So I think that is an important piece, that it is all together. The behavioral health piece, the housing, people have to be seen as an entire individual. And I think up to this point, a lot of historically underserved communities do not seek out services because some of those that provide those services don't look like them. So I think it's important to bring those services to the individuals, to their communities, to communities where they feel comfortable and understood, and where they can get their services from folks who they are comfortable with. So I think that's a big part of what is important. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any other additional raised hands or questions at this time.
Thank you, sir. Again, we appreciate everyone coming out tonight. If you have any questions, ideas, thoughts going forward, please get them to us through the survey, through the email, give us a call. Also, if you have a proposal that you'd like to submit to us today, please email that to John or myself. Get that to us as soon as you can, because we really want to have all of this information come together, give us enough time to put it into a presentation and submit it to the commission for their consideration on December 7th at 3:30 p.m. right here in the commission chamber. So again, the commission workshop will be December 7th at 3:30 p.m. here in the commission chambers. So we look forward to hearing more from you. We look forward to your continued engagement and support. And we really do appreciate all the work that you do every single day for the citizens of Boynton Beach. So thank you very much. Have a good night. And I think you're going to close us out.
Yes, David. As a reminder, a recorded version of this session will be posted to the City of Boynton Beach's YouTube channel. Links to that channel are available on the City of Boynton Beach's website at boynton-beach.org. This concludes today's meeting. On behalf of David Scott, Carice Lejeune, and all of our city staff, thank you for attending today's City of Boynton Beach ARPA nonprofit organization public input meeting. Be safe and have a great night.
Thank you very much.